no more heroes. It's hero begin to catch on nobody but yourselves. Nothing less to do.
Travis, it's kill or be killed.
Ow!
Today, we had a bit of a different topic. Every Monday, you guys know, if you're new here or if this is your first time here, every Monday we discuss mental health in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes we tie it into the game that we're playing. Sometimes it's a lot more general. But more often than not, these are just opening the floor for open discussions based around mental health. Going into the discussion, I wanted to talk about how some people tie their self-worth to the fighting games they play and how good they are at a fighting game. You know, where it's a lot different when you're in that space that you've gotten past the, oh, you know, these moves are really cool, pressing buttons is really nice. And you're kind of at that phase where you're not quite an expert, but you're stuck between good and bad. Like some days you have really good days where you're performing really well, but you're not quite consistent enough to punish the stuff you know you should be punishing or do the combos you know you should be doing. You're not quite optimal. You're not dropping everything, but you're not landing everything. You're not losing every match, but you're not winning every match. You know, that kind of thing. So when playing fighting games, I think some of us make the mistake of tying our self-worth into our performances. That feeling of finally getting good at something when you know everything goes right in one round, just for the next round to have it all taken away faster than Kendrick Lamar can drop a diss track. It sucks, man. And fighting games can be just as hard as they are fun, just as rewarding as they are punishing. And it's so common to be blinded by the concept of winning that you forget to reflect on each match you play afterwards to fix your mistakes and to improve your skills. But is it really that serious? Like when I think about it, not all of us participate in tournaments, right? Not all of us stream matches to an audience. Not all of us are even signed to an esports team. But fighting games are made just to be fun after all, right? Not everyone cares about winning, losing, or getting better and just want to have fun playing the game after all. So what's the big deal, right? It's not like you have someone in your ear constantly telling you that you're bad at the game or how bad at the game you are. At least I hope not. Or I hope that person isn't you telling yourself how bad you are, that you suck, which is fairly more common than I actually think it should be. But when you spend so many hours playing something, putting effort into something, even as a hobby, it can become a part of you. We attach pieces of ourselves knowingly or unknowingly to the things we spend hours and hours on. And whether that's a sport, person, or a hobby, it becomes part of our identities, big or small. It's about beating your opponent, not learning the ins and outs anymore. And having that set of expectations where you're like, I'm this good, I should be able to do X, Y, and Z. And when you can't, it's kind of like immediately setting yourself up for failure. The moment where the expectations become part of that, right? Some people correlate their sense of self-worth to how good they are to things they love or care about. And when you spend so many hours doing something just to still be mediocre at it or not as good as others, it can be straight up demoralizing. You know, how many times have you seen a pro player clutch a situation that you've been stuck in multiple times and you've gotten hit by it? Where you know the low is coming and you don't low parry, you don't block, you want to press even though you knew it wasn't your turn and you just lose. Or where you're playing Fortnite and there's a squad of 3 people pushing you and you're seeing your favorite streamer, like they were able to overcome that situation, but not you. Like you're not them. So you're just like, man, if only I was as good as this person, or I knew what to do, but I just don't have the mechanics on how to do it. You know, it kind of sucks, especially in the age we live in, where you can see other people pulling off stuff that's really cool consistently and they're making it look effortless. But if you love fighting games, you want to keep enjoying them, it's very important to recognize that your skill in fighting games do not reflect your self-worth as a human being. A big part of some people placing their self-worth in fighting games is partially due to the nature of the genre, right? There's no one to blame but yourself if you lose or if something happens. Like sometimes you do have the game's mechanics, but more often than not, if you win or lose, it's on you, it's in your control. You don't have a teammate right next to you advising you what to do, what not to do. You don't have a teammate next to you to blame in the event that things go wrong. It's strictly on you. I find that often we're more critical of ourselves than we are of others. And if someone makes the same mistakes that we do, I think people pleasers like me especially have this bad, but that's another conversation entirely. But I can't tell you guys how many times I've dropped the combo, lost after having a big health lead, messed up a combo ender, didn't block a low I knew was coming, and it just lost the game entirely. Then I was thinking to myself, you know,
I gotta be the dumbest person on the planet.
Or like the worst fighting game player ever to touch a stick. Pause. But when my friends say like the same self-deprecating things about themselves, like they say, I'm an idiot, how could I not block this? I can't believe I lost to that. I start beating them up because no one talks about my friends that way. On another serious note, I think it's important to recognize that your self-worth as a human being and how good you are at fighting games or pressing buttons even are 2 different things that are independent of each other and that you shouldn't use one to measure the other. Moving on, the games we play are only as deep as we want them to be. At times, improving in a fighting game can feel like you're on a warrior's journey. You gain more confidence to do things you normally never would, learn more, try out new things, and you gradually start improving, and it looks like the sky's the limit. You're bodying everybody you come across. You're feeling straight up unstoppable. You're doing all these cool combos and things, all until you hit that brick wall at full speed and straight up plateau. Then it's the complete opposite. Now every game is straight up frustrating, right? You know about the game, you know what you should be doing, but you can't quite do it. You're running into bad matchups, you're dropping combos, losing games, getting more and more tilted, and you may even start to question whether or not you were ever good at fighting games to begin with. And then it's important to realize that now when you reach that point, you're in a slump. A bad or frustrating set of circumstances that can feel straight up impossible to move on because you don't know how. And it can feel a lot like trying to solve a problem that's really difficult, but you're not even smart enough to know what questions you got to start asking in order to fix it. It's such a big thing. And especially if you're playing a fighting game like Tekken, where knowledge is such a big piece of the puzzle, where something can feel straight up impossible to beat or like it's super cheap. And next thing you know, you just see somebody beat it in like a 30-second clip and you're like, that's all I had to do? Like that is agonizingly frustrating. Essentially, if you let them do so, fighting games can be the very thing that builds you up or tear you down. We can all be very passionate about the things we put time and effort into. You're going to hear that a lot. But if you're still struggling with a sense of self-worth while playing consistently, I think everybody could benefit from showing themselves a little more grace and being kinder to themselves. Loving oneself is just as important as loving others, and finding out what's triggering negative thoughts is a big part of that. If it's the game itself or external factors on top of it, because some people may not realize, but only playing a game when they're particularly stressed may be taking down how much they can actually enjoy the game. Things like your mental health, circumstances in life, state of mind will heavily impact how much you can enjoy a game. I wanted to give you guys a couple tips, right, in order to help manage some of the more mental aspect of playing fighting games, things that I've benefited from, things that other people could possibly benefit from. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but that's why I have so many tips here. And it's just all in the guise of hoping that it helps somebody. Because obviously we're all different people. What works for one thing may not work for another person, and sometimes we have to try multiple things multiple times before we're actually able to settle on what could possibly help us the best. Some simple, some not so much. For instance, taking a break, right? It's one of the easiest things we can do, but it's also one of the hardest things to do, especially if you're grinding ranked. Because I've seen people drive themselves insane playing ranked Tekken for hours and hours and hours just to lose all the progress they've made after a few losses to how the point system works currently. I've seen one of my friends go on I think he won 6 games in a row. He lost 1 game and lost all of his ranked progress. All those games just did not matter. He was back to where he started. He didn't stop there. He kept playing and then just regressed. Because not only was he mad about how the games were going, but he was mad about losing his points. And instead of taking a break and walking away, it's like gambling, right? You're up so much, you're like, oh man, this is fire, I'm winning. Then you start missing, and all of a sudden you're losing money. You're losing more than you came in there with. But don't tilt queue. I say this to say, do not tilt queue. For those who don't know, it just means queuing up more games when you're already angry, either at the stubbornness, the hope you might win, or because you're like, I gotta win one before getting off. It's never worth it. It's never worth it. But if you're playing to improve or reach a particular goal, try setting micro goals, micro objectives, so that the loss in progress doesn't feel as punishing, because you can at least be like, well, at least I got better at this. Like for fighting games, if you're trying to improve at anti-airs, if you're trying to control space easier, maybe you're like, I need to block lows, I'm really struggling with that, or break throws. That's something that can help you to where even if you lose the set, you're like, oh wait, hey, you know, this one thing I was struggling with, this one throw I didn't know how to break, I found out how to break it and this person didn't land it on me anymore. It gives you something else to strive towards, so you're not solely focused on the goal of winning. And sometimes it can be fun to go off the beaten path every once in a while, right? Plus it just helps you stay focused when you lose your way a lot as often. Oh my god, words are hard. It helps you stay focused when you lose your way, as a lot of us often do, which is okay. Like, you know, learn more consistent strategies that you don't always have to think about, because improving your autopilot helps you not think as much, helps lower your mental stack, and helps you move forward a lot easier than it is constantly thinking about what you have to do, what your character's capable of, what their character's capable of, to the point where you don't even have to think about it and you can enjoy the game a lot more. Sometimes that's why a lot of people struggle less playing easier characters, because if you don't have to think about how hard it is to pilot your character, you're able to just engage with the game and what your opponent is doing and reacting to that a lot easier. The same way you can improve small things in a fighting game is the same way you can do with just life in general. Because a lot of us, if we're struggling in life, sometimes it makes it harder to enjoy the things that we do as a hobby. Consistent action, discipline, and even just having a positive attitude. Because if you're not constantly dooming about what you're going through, like I've seen so many people, a certain character comes up on the screen and they're like, oh man, I lost. Like some people do the same thing in life, where they realize a certain person there is at work and they're like, oh, it's going to be a bad day. Or, oh man, you know, my tire popped, this day sucks. or maybe you forgot to do something the day before that's now coming back to bite you in the ass today, and you're like, man, this week is just not going well. One of the things that helped you was setting limits / stepping point based on how the games are going. Yeah, that is something that can help too. That is something that can definitely help too. But obviously knowing what you're worth and what you're capable of will help circumvent a lot of this. It won't circumvent everything, but if you know what you're struggling with, if you know what you're trying to fix and trying to become better at, that's a lot better than trying to blindly improve or just trying to get better for the sake of getting better. When you give yourself something concrete to work on. It's not always easy, but trust me, you can do it. If the game is causing you a large amount of stress, then either the game is not, if the game is causing you a large amount of stress consistently, I forgot to say that, consistently, then maybe it's not for you. You shouldn't feel like the game sucks, like it's super stressful all the time, every game, every person you deal with, either team-based or solo. It might be time to just see if the game is actually for you or if you may need therapy. You might even just need to work on your patience. Not everybody's patient, and even those of us who are, everybody has a breaking point, right? I'm not saying you can't be angry, get upset, or be mad ever. Like, that's just toxic, right? Toxic positivity is very much a thing. I'm not saying you always have to be happy, always have to be satisfied, always have to be like, well, at least so-and-so didn't. Like, no. Sometimes you're gonna feel those emotions, and feeling those emotions is part of being human. It's what you do afterwards and how you deal with them that determines whether or not they're becoming a problem. If the emotions you're experiencing are becoming a problem or not, laugh at the dumb things, smile at the absurd, compliment your opponents, and try other less competitive sides of fighting games. Like, we have a lot of casual modes in fighting games now. Like, I hope I don't see people sweating in Tekken Ball or Tekken Bowling, or even in Street Fighter when they have the extreme battles or the other modes when it comes to beating up cars and stuff. There's a lot more than just immediately sweating against another person in ranked or casual matches or quick matches or just mindlessly fighting a person for hours and hours at a time. That's how you enjoy the game. That's how you have fun. Hey, you pay for it, you bought it. I'm not gonna judge. But at the very least, try out the other stuff that comes with the game. Don't always just put the axe to the grind and continuously work on nothing but the sweaty stuff. Evo needs the Tekken Ball category. I'd watch that. Identify your goals, what you want from the game you're playing, and just have fun. And I hope this helps somebody who needed it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a night. You're all wonderful people.